It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and it is Thursday, the 13th day of December 2012. We have several special reports we're going to be premiering here on the radio broadcast today, dealing with several very important geopolitical issues. Dr. Russell Blaylock did not make the show a few days ago, but he will be joining us to talk about statin drugs and the neurological disorders increasing, and the fact that the media and the medical establishment knows full well it's because people are not getting the healthy fats their brains are made out of, that amongst the excitotoxins that are in the diet. But we'll first get his take on Obamacare now going into place. And I have a big stack of news here. Just in the last 3 years, 2.5 years since Obamacare, quote, became law, just in anticipation of it going into effect here in about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, it went up roughly 25% nationwide. And I have those numbers here out of Bloomberg and other publications. Now it's set to double. Many premiums are set to double on top of not just the general premiums, but also the deductibles and much more. So we're going to be going over the wonderful free health care you're going to be getting. Yeah, you pay extra money to the insurance companies, a direct tax to the private megabanks, and now government runs health care completely, and so they will tell the doctors what treatments they can give you. Just in case you happen to have a good doctor that knows to give you the generic drug or a drug that's old but not the new thing that doesn't really work, well, the government can now, controlled by big pharma, and also owned by the megabanks, can say, well, take this new expensive drug that doesn't even work. So your doctor is now a government-programmed computer. This is what's phasing in. That's why some estimates show that upwards of 40%, you can pull this up, upwards of 40% of doctors in some fields are leaving. They're all, and by the way, my dad is in healthcare. And major medical divisions that provide dental care, but also other medical care, are just shutting down. The corporations have made the decision to just cease business. I mean, America is now entering the phase of where people leave Venezuela. Corporations leave Russia. Corporations leave other authoritarian systems. And so that's the medium-sized companies. People would think of these as big companies because they're, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That's actually a medium-sized company. So the medium-sized companies are saying, well, this business is over. And government is busy taking over the rest of healthcare. I got to twist my dad's arm to come on air, the stuff he could tell you, but he doesn't want to do it. Because he says a lot of it's proprietary. And that's the problem, is that you work at these corporations and these companies, and they tell you you're not allowed to talk about this. And when you're not allowed to talk about something and you sign a non-disclosure and you agree to it, that's the way it is. It's the same way I wear a journalist hat. And if I'm in a meeting with somebody, even if they're a globalist I happen to meet or run into, or I accept a meeting with, once something's off record, it's off record, unless it's, a felony being committed in front of my eyes. Because if you ever break confidence, then you never get the sources again. My problem is so many times people tell you stuff and don't say, by the way, this is in confidence. And then you start talking about it, they're like, hey, don't talk about that. Okay. So it's actually one of the things that tortures me, is trying to always maintain that, honorable trait All right, big news ahead. I'll give it all to you straight ahead. We'll be right back. Stay with us. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we are live on this Thursday, the 13th day of December, 2012. And we're reportedly only 7 days out in some time zones until the end of the world. In fact, it's getting close to less than 7 days on Greenwich Mean Time. Everyone knows that Planet Nibiru or Planet X will be slamming into the world on Greenwich Mean Time, of course. NASA has already put out a video early declaring, see, the end of the world didn't happen. And I just think that it is, a lot of people think similarly because that's funny. I have a video coming out tomorrow where I basically say, see, the end of the world didn't happen. And it's not a hard call, but I expand on it. Yes, we're 7 days, 11 hours, 50 minutes, 49 seconds until the end of the world. Only the Super Friends can save us. But the video we're putting out tomorrow goes over the real threats humanity is facing. You see, if a giant, say, 10-mile wide iron ore asteroid slams into the Earth, it will go directly into the mantle, causing even perhaps part of the core to leak out on the surface. It will eject with the power of 10 million large hydrogen bombs or more. Billions of megatons of rock will be ejected into space, but also into the atmosphere. The Earth will then freeze solid, planetary-wide, and most life will be destroyed. Will die. Now, that could happen at any time. We know those type of events have happened in Earth's history. And that is one of the biggest threats we face. Also, solar flares can be large enough and powerful enough to be directed right at the Earth and not just destroy electronics by the different, particles it's sending out, building up in electrical wires and then precipitating out in electronics, but actually hit the Earth and burn to a crisp whatever side it hits and damage the atmosphere, perhaps even destroying the atmosphere. There's types of things like that that can happen. But see, we don't know the hour or the day. And there have been calls to put a peaceful defense system out in deep orbit with weapon systems on board to track large asteroids coming in close to the Earth and to destroy them. The problem is any system like that could then be turned back around towards the Earth. And it's also dangerous to get the nuclear weapons into space. The particle beams we know they have are not strong enough to deflect and change the course or destroy the type of, 2-mile, 3-mile, a 2-mile asteroid. End of the world as we know it. 3-mile, end of the world. 10 mile, 10 mile. And if it's iron ore or nickel, it's going deep. It's going real deep. It's going, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles or more into the Earth. It's going to eject all that back. Some estimates are 20 miles into the Earth, 30 miles into the Earth. Anyways, side issue, we're just building up towards 2012. And my point is there's all these non-man-made threats to the Earth that are cyclical and are hard to estimate when are going to happen. There are defenses for it other than super flares off the sun. Comets hit the Earth, asteroids, things like that. If a 300-yard long asteroid hits the Earth and it's metal, you'll think that a 100-megaton hydrogen bomb got dropped on your city if it happens to hit there. Other than that, it'll just cause a huge explosion if it's in a rural area and eject a bunch of dust to the atmosphere. You could talk about this stuff all day, but what I get into in the piece that Aaron and I have been working on all week that we're going to premiere tomorrow here on the radio /video for PrisonPlanet.tv subscribers is the man-made threats we can do something about. Genetic engineering, bioweapons, nanotech, super cyclotrons like the Hadron in Europe, France into Switzerland. These are the real things that the Earth is seriously threatened by. And that's another reason I get so mad at the globalists who want to say it's humans all day. Just the general public, when it's the globalists that say they want world government to protect us from these type of sciences being developed in a reckless way, and they need a global government to shut down countries doing this, but it's globalist nations in Europe, England, the United States that are racing in pure research with their scientists going, well, there's a low probability this will cause a unstable black hole that will destroy the Earth, but we're going to do the test anyways, and 500 more just like this. And yes, we're going to try to create a strangelet particle, and there's a good chance it'll sink to the center of the Earth and start a chain reaction implosion, but we're still going to do it. Kind of like more than half the scientists thought with the A-bomb test in 1944 into 45, the secret test. They told folks, never mind those giant explosions in the Nevada desert that, break windows in Las Vegas. Nothing's going on. You didn't see a mushroom cloud, and the public said, okay, we didn't see a mushroom cloud. Kind of like you don't notice your neighbors all dying of cancer right now because the globalists are killing us. Or the neurological, it's just people hey, move along, it's normal. That's why people all the time, you see the articles every week in Europe and the U.S. and Australia and New Zealand and other Western countries. It's really bad in China, too, where, a woman's raped in public on the middle of a busy street. She stumbles around, beaten the head with a pipe in Toronto, bleeding out. And at one telecom company, the CEO, this was in the news a few years ago, says, don't even call police. It's just too much of a bother. Let her just lay out there on the street and die. But employees did have fun watching her, an attractive woman with her head beat in, later went into a coma. I mean, they did enjoy her naked on the street, though. That was the company had reportedly, because some employees are the ones that reported him, and rightfully so, that it was great entertainment. You see, this is the thing I've noticed, is that people don't care about each other anymore. And it's seen as a virtue to not get involved when you see somebody have a car wreck, a really bad car wreck, and you'll watch all the other cars just keep driving. They just keep driving. And I've had to get on the radio before, and I still pulled over and helped people. And it's not because I'm some hero. Man, it's an instinct. I want you to pull over if I have a bad wreck. But it's not like I even think, oh, consciously, I better pull over because I want people to pull over for me. It's like, oh, I got to help somebody. But see, that's because I'm a bad person, though. In the new trendy world, you don't say hi to people on the street. In the new trendy world, you don't care about anybody. You're real cynical. And the more arrogant and snobby you are, then the other snobs will think you must have something going. But I've already digressed off. The point is, people individually don't even care about themselves, much less others. And then it creates a toxic environment, a toxic society. And then we've got Al Gore and others lecturing us all day about how it's the carbon dioxide that we exhale that plants then respirate from and use in photosynthesis. See, there's a carbon cycle on terra firma, third planet out from our sun. Here in the boondocks of the Milky Way galaxy. You have to have 4 things in the cycle here on terra firma. 4 things, first and foremost. You've got to have water. You've got to have sunlight. You've got to have carbon dioxide, and oxygen. Now, the globalists know that sunlight's not bad. We're going to have a problem, but they are talking about solar panel taxes now, so don't worry. That's already actually, some places have actually started implementing taxes on the solar panels themselves, which is a tax on the sun. So I shouldn't say it's coming, it's actually here now. Just like, meters on wells you've had for 100 years saying, that or saying we're going to arrest you for rainwater collection things on your farm. And that's now happening. And they're taking people's houses when they don't pay the fines. That's been in the news recently. So they know the sun isn't bad. They know water. Well, most people, if you say, should we ban hydrogen monoxide, it does sound scary. Actually, most people do say ban water, excuse me. Like sodium chloride, they think salt's evil. They don't know what that means, so they just think, should we ban sodium chloride? Absolutely. You've seen those TV shows where they've done it, and people sit there, 90+% of them, ban salt, ban water. So I shouldn't. But the point is, water doesn't sound scary. Sunlight doesn't sound scary. Oxygen, we know we breathe that. Even the dumbest idiot knows that our blood, when I just sucked air in right there, a fish sends water over its gills to get the oxygen and gulps. The primitives thought they drank water. That's not what's happening. They're getting evil oxygen. So they picked carbon dioxide because it sounds scary. And so they're not worried about genetic engineering, open air, chemical testing, biological, radiological, hadron superconducting supercolliders and other cyclotrons. They're not worried about antimatter weapon production the Air Force admits they've successfully developed, but the details are classified. San Francisco Chronicle, if you want to look that up. No. They're worried about something that is the lowest ever recorded from ice samples and mud samples going back, in some cases, millions of years. It is the lowest ever recorded carbon dioxide. The lowest ever recorded in the last 100 years. We are starving for it. Plants grow faster, live longer. Many species of plants are just dying out. Did you know many species of plants are dying? Primitive species that were in a more carbon dioxide-rich environment are dying on the Earth right now? Look it up. Just type primitive plants dying due to low carbon dioxide. Desertification in Africa. Carbon dioxide. It's not a rain issue mainly. Low carbon dioxide. Those were plant regions because they've dug up the fossils of them that were in a higher carbon dioxide environment. In fact, the first types of plants on this planet need more carbon dioxide than the newer plants that can live in it. So my point is that we're going to talk about real threats. But first, some big news coming up. Okay, I've been engaging in my customary rant about how the end of the world is not coming on December 21st, 2012. It is a way to get people just to feel like there's no point of even being involved in the world, so you'll just basically stand down and do what you're told. They also use the rapture, biblically twisted, to get Christians to constantly think the world is ending, so you won't be politically involved. It's just amazing, but we'll be covering that more, as I said, tomorrow. I want to give the number out now, then get into news and go to your calls. And I will attempt to go to them. And I want to open the phones up again for first-time callers who can't ever seem to get through on any of the subjects we've been talking about, the unions beating people up and members of the legislature and in Michigan encouraging it and not getting in trouble. Where do you see that going? The ongoing globalization, the announcements of massive tax increases, regardless of whether it's the Republican or Democratic plan. Obviously, we should be discussing that. The Weekly Standard reports UN conference slyly introduces resolution to gain control of the internet in the middle of the night. Yeah, we knew that was coming because they had been saying, oh, no, we're not going to try to take control of the internet, even though this is what Obama has been trying to do, is to give control of the internet over to the UN. He signed a secret cyber order and has told Congress they're not allowed to see it. So just amazing. We're going to be getting into that. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Let's go over some of the headlines here. As I mentioned, UN conference slyly introduces resolution to gain control of internet in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night at the UN conference in Dubai, the presiding chairman of the International Telecommunications Union Conference surveyed the assembled countries to see whether there was interest in having greater involvement in the UN governing the internet. A majority of countries gave their approval. Now, let's have other countries run the internet that our country created. With a sufficient majority supporting the UN becoming more active in controlling the internet, the chairman put forth a resolution. The chairman, though, insisted the survey was not a vote. Oh, no. The resolution was supported by Cuba, Algeria, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia. The United States opposed it. The proposed resolution resolves that the Secretary General of the UN continue to take the necessary steps for the ITU to play an active and constructive role in the multi-stakeholder model, that means globalist megacorporations, of the internet according to the draft of the text. When you're a stakeholder, that means not you, the general public. And they are, again, trying to get an international patent treaty and copyright treaty through that they tried to keep secret this year, but it came out about 6 months ago, that even mainstream media called Russian or Chinese-style net censorship. And that's where cybersecurity is going as well. They just publicly oppose the UN getting full control. Instead, they're segueing it over to the UN and NATO and others. So that's that news right there. But, of course, the UN denied a few weeks ago this was happening. And Politico, came out and said, anyone saying this is a conspiracy theorist, of course, even though they're now openly announcing we're under global government. Look at this article up at Infowars.com by Mike Adams. And it says, every human emotion now classified as a mental disorder in new psychiatric manual, DSM-5. Yeah, previously they said if you don't like authority, you're mentally ill. Or if you feel like you can't trust government, that's mentally ill. So the founding fathers were all basically mentally ill. But continuing here, the industry of modern psychiatry has officially gone insane. Well, they do have the highest suicide rate out there of any profession and the lowest life expectancy of any of the medical corps. Virtually every emotion experienced by a human being, sadness, grief, anxiety, frustration, impatience, excitement, is now being classified as a mental disorder demanding chemical treatment with prescription medications, of course. Yeah, and continuing here, this is all part of the New Freedom Initiative, Orwellianly titled, that they launched in 2005 and that now is back, where they say, this was public, and board members actually criticized that we're part of the president's commission, that's why it became public, that they said, well, the standards are written by Big Pharma that wants to make billions more, and they're saying we're going to go from 20% of adults and kids on psychotropic drugs or other amphetamine-type drugs like Ritalin, and we want to go to 50%. And now they're moving towards that. And we're going to go over the psychiatry Bible when we come back a little bit, because they're expanding it. But I've seen what they ask the kids in public school, but also in college. Now, especially if you get student aid, they make you go in to see the shrink. And they ask, you feel a little bit of anxiety? Ever get a little upset? Ever get angry? Well, you need Prozac. No, that's mental illness, yeah. And they ask 12-year-olds. Okay, let me finish up with this article, then I'll get into some of the other headlines and then your phone calls ahead of Dr. Blaylock joining us with some key information on Obamacare and beyond. Every human emotion now classified as mental disorder in new psychiatric manual DSM-5. And they already list most stuff previously. And it's real weird. Like, these psychologists have sent me letters. I've been interviewed by one of the people over at Psychology Today, the big psychology magazine. And the guy said, I'm mentally ill. There is no world government. And I said, but let me give you proof where they are announcing world government. No, it doesn't exist. You're ill. And the guy, of course, had worked for the Clinton administration, been a Clinton operative, and worked with Al Gore and people. So it's just like a joke. They just say, we're in charge, and we say you're crazy. We're in charge, and we say carbon dioxide's deadly poison. We're in charge, and we say Obama's a Peace Prize winner, and the 8 countries he's bombing, it's peace. We're in charge, and Obama said he will not sign the NDAA, and that he's against it. Of course, it turned out his lawyers wrote it. He secretly pushed for it to get through. Then he said he wouldn't sign it. Then he did sign it. And they still go, oh, that's being paranoid now. But he did sign it. Oh, you're crazy. You think the NSA is listening to you? That's illegal. We don't do that. Headlines, NSA listening to everyone. Well, of course we have to. You're paranoid for not liking it. You see, and again, they play this part. It's role-playing. They go, we're in charge. You're supposed to go, oh, you're in charge. Okay, you're in charge now. All righty. That's what they do. And I've had these people walk up to me on the street and say, you're wrong. Basically, I'm in charge. I'm in charge. I mean, I could go declare myself Queen Elizabeth and, dress up like her. It doesn't make me Queen Elizabeth. It is delusional. These are delusional people who do not live in the real world. And that's why psychologists and psychiatrists, and there are some good ones out there, there is some truth to Jungian psychology and Sigmund Freud, but it all oversimplifies it in their one little, discipline, which then narrowly defines things. But there are many other disciplines out there. So I'm not saying it's all a complete fraud. What I'm saying historically is it's used as a political tool of control. And if you say that, they go, that's preposterous. Another, just proves you're crazy. Really, Hitler didn't first use the psychiatrist to take over in 1933, 34, 35. They were the first people to kill in government institutions. I mean, anyone who knows anything about history knows that very predatory, dangerous people work at state hospitals and work at government facilities, and that the inmates are running the asylum, and they're there because they can sexually abuse people, they can hurt people, whatever they're into, sadomasochistic, sadism, torture, sex stuff, power trips. It's these mental institutions. And a lot of the people in the mental institutions actually have mercury poisoning. Major studies, you can look them up, have shown. And that's all they need is a detox. But by the time they get them drugged up, it's over. Their life's over. Or they have brain-borne parasites. There's many different types. But they'll never even check for that parasite. I've seen numbers as many as, 10%. Most studies show about 5%. But as many as 10% of people with cats have a brain-borne parasite that makes you basically insane. It's like, oh, that old crazy cat lady. Yeah, that witch. She's crazy. I saw her barking at the moon. Let's go burn her at the stake. Yeah, she had 9 cats. No, you had a brain parasite. But they didn't know that. They didn't know why she was flopping around on the ground, screaming ooga booga. They just went and burned her at the stake because they were ignorant. Well, today, psychiatry doesn't even know about the brain, the different brain parasites. They don't even know about heavy metal. Most psychiatrists and psychologists, because I've talked to them, but I've read articles about it, they admit it. When you read different psychology magazines and stuff, I read them, I take them. It's all about, my dad used to lock me in a thing and torture me. That's why I became a psychologist. Or, I had a lot of mental illness in my family. My uncle thought he was St. Jerome, so I became a psychiatrist. I mean, they are nuts themselves. They got into it because they're really schizophrenics, you see, but they're keeping it quiet, that they're seeing ghosts and stuff, you understand? But then they can't control themselves at 45 and blow their brains out. They're crazy people. They're crazy people trying to cure themselves. And they've got heavy metal toxicity, or they've got brain parasites. See, I kind of just digress off in any area. Or they've got genetic disorders. And there are real, people that are mentally ill out there. But they are now coming out and saying everything is a mental illness. And Mike Adams breaks it down. It goes on here. The new upcoming DSM Psychiatry Bible, expected to be released in a few months, has transformed itself from a medical reference manual to a testament of insanity of the industry itself. And then he has links to the latest releases of it. Mental disorders named in the DSM-5 include general anxiety disorder. If my kids are misbehaving and I'm not getting stuff done, I have anxiety about it, and it makes me go get stuff done. Well, that's mental illness. Or GAD for short. GAD can be diagnosed in a person who feels a little anxious doing something like, say, talking to a psychiatrist. Oh, yeah, they tell 13-year-old girls that if they feel nervous around boys, that's mental illness, darling. You need a serotonin reuptake inhibitor that literally eats holes in your brain. Thus, the mere act of psychiatrists engaging in the possibility of making a diagnosis cause the symptoms of the diagnosis to magically appear. This is called quack science. Well, that's where psychiatrists came from, was the old people in the back of a wagon, selling people laudanum or opium. Yet it is indicative of the entire industry of psychiatry, which has become such a laughingstock among scientific circles that even the science skeptics are starting to turn their backs in disgust. But it doesn't matter, because they run the schools, they run the systems, and they make you put your kids on this. Doesn't matter, they're in charge. Psychiatry, and that's how they like it, I'm in charge. Psychiatry is no more scientific than astrology or palm reading, yet its practitioners call themselves doctors of psychiatry in order to try to make quackery sound more credible. How modern psychiatry really works. And then he goes over it all. It's up at Infowars.com right now. Oh, by the way, the former DSM chairperson has apologized for creating false epidemics. Alan Francis chaired the DSM 4 that was released in '94. He now claims it was a huge mistake that has resulted in mass overdiagnosis of people who are actually quite normal. The DSM-4 inadvertently contributed 3 false epidemics: attention deficit disorder, autism, and childhood bipolar, writes Allen in the LA Times opinion piece. And he goes on. Folks, my children eat pretty healthy, but if they eat red dye, one of my daughters, it's always a piece of candy that has red coating. A certain type of red dye turns into a maniac. I mean, if I give my children a Coca-Cola, they go to a party, oh, let us have a Coca-Cola, and some, yellow, or pink icing cake. They bounce off the walls for an hour, then have black circles around their eyes and act like zombies for the next day. I mean, no kidding, ladies and gentlemen. I ate a chocolate bar last night because my wife bought some. And it's just uncontrolled if she does it. And she says, we're not doing it anymore. But there was these chocolate bars. And I went and ate one. Number 1, I didn't sleep last night because of the caffeine. Number 2, I feel like I have a hangover today. From a big Cadbury dark chocolate bar I shoved down my throat. But the point, I ate like a pig in about 3 minutes. But the point is, man, you don't give that to kids, folks. You don't give it to them. But, oh, it doesn't matter. Let's give them aspartame. Let's give them MSG. Let's give them all these hundreds of additives that are in things. I mean, folks, if I eat fast food now, if we're on the road on a shoot and that's all that's there, I haven't done this, by the way, in years, because I would do it when you haven't been eating it in a while and feel sick an hour later like I had drunk a gallon of Jack Daniels the day before. You're like, what is in this McDonald's? What is in this Burger King? Additives, folks. If they call them additives and they got them approved decades ago, it's petrochemicals and stuff. It's drugs. That's why it's addictive. Most poisons are actually addictive. Did you know that? Look it up. Many poisons are addictive, and they know what they're doing. It's like cigarettes. Hundreds of additives in the average top brand to make it more addictive, to make it go to your brain. Unbelievable what they do to you. And it's the same type of industries. And I'm going to your calls. If you knew history, folks, you would know 200 years ago, one of the biggest businesses in Europe and what is the United States and Canada today. The U.S. was here. Canada was here. Already as nations. Canada not quite. It was, I guess, a British territory. But the point is, all of this is going on. And the biggest business was not trapping. It was not sawmills. It was not manufacturing. It was medicine men. And they would go around in these big wagon trains selling opium and cocaine and every other drug you could imagine, hallucinogens, you name it. They were traveling apothecaries. Okay, you could walk in any drugstore, buy anything you wanted. If you thought rhino horn would help you, they'd have that at an exorbitant price. Okay, 200 years ago. Look it up. It's incredible history. Read countless books on it. Can't put them down. All the wild, tales and reprinted newspaper articles from the time. Because you show up in town, the whiskey sellers can't compete with somebody selling heroin. Wasn't heroin, but what became heroin later? Opium. I mean, yeah, you got a headache, you got a toothache, drink some of this, your problems are solved. They became so wealthy. The Rockefellers actually made their money. Before John D. the First, their daddy ran a big chain. You can look this up all over the Midwest when that was opening up and the East of wagons selling opium. And that's who created Big Pharma. If you track it back, it's all these opium dealers and people and drug dealers. They created Big Pharma. They financed psychiatry. They financed our whole world. And then they merged with the eugenicist because the royalty who was inbred was like, all our kids are dying. Those that do live are totally insane or mentally ill from the inbreeding, like a dog will be really mentally ill. So these crazy royals hired all these psychiatrists and psych warfare chiefs and eugenicists and others to try to cure them of all their deformities. And they said, well, the problem is the general public, their disease. We've got to wipe them out. As if that was even affecting them. It goes back to Malthus and the rest of it. So, folks, that's who runs all this. That's why it's so crazy and so deformed and so strange. And then as society breaks down, as order breaks down, people are like, well, let's send our kid to the psychiatrist. And they put your 12-year-old on. They put 67 nationally to 69, depending on which year, of children in foster care on multiple psychotropics, an average of 7. WOAI reported it on that and broke it down. You can look it up yourself. I'll go to your calls. That shows you when they get you in their custody, 2/3 are put on drugs. So that's their goal. And I've known people on these drugs. And some people, it doesn't hurt them, at least mentally. Physically, it does. But every time I hear about a mother who drowns her children in the bathtub or puts them in a lake or chops their arms off with a meat cleaver or shoots them or puts a baby in the microwave, every time it comes out weeks later in the defense that they were on multiple serotonin reuptake inhibitors and didn't know who they were. Because I'm sure we've all had that feeling like, you know, when some guy comes out of a store and bows up, has got a problem, bud? You have an impulse to just punch him right in the throat. But you have impulse control. And you learn how to just go, no, I don't have a problem. How you doing, man? That's good, you don't have a problem. Yes, sir. What do you mean, smart mouth with me? No, sir. See, my problem is I have to work to be like that. That's real discipline. Real discipline. To sit there and go, yes, sir, powerful. And while you're just thinking, you touch me, I'm gonna absolutely break your neck. But the point is that you put people, they're putting police on serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They're putting military men on them. The guy that killed those 18 people in Afghanistan under psychiatric care didn't want to go back because all his buddies being killed. Part of his foot was blown off. He had a fake foot. Didn't want to go back for his 4th tour, sergeant. He blacked out, folks. He was on a psychiatric drug treatment. They won't say what. They put a trained killer who'd had his foot blown off, fighting with a prosthesis, and watched his buddies blown up that same day. And he was on a hallucinogen, folks. Those drugs are in the hallucinogen class. And you know what? They're going to put that guy in jail. That's how crazy psychiatry is. Let's go to your calls as promised. In this segment, the next, and then the next, and then Blaylock at 5 after. David in Texas, thanks for holding. You're on the air, sir. Welcome.
Honor of my life in speaking with you.
No, sir. Honor of my life. Go ahead.
Oh, your knowledge of history, your love of history, your patriotism, and your brilliance are coming together to really form a strong link that we need to the reality of what's going on. My question is a little bit off your last subject. It's not a question, actually. My personal theory about the nearly 200,000 rounds of ammunition that have been distributed to the various bureaucracies.
Well, sir, it's 1.6 billion, but yeah, just it was 200. It was 200,000 of one type of sniper 308. But go ahead.
I stand corrected. I knew that. Based on the standard MO of the New World Order blueprint for revolution, we have seen them spend countless millions in dividing a country covertly, bringing insurgency, then followed by their arming of the rebels till the country disintegrates into chaos, whereupon they come in with the big guns and take it over, and further their subversive groups and move them on to the next country. Based on that, and based on the fact that I've never heard of any of these bureaucrats being given training in the use of assault weapons, I am convinced that these rounds are meant for us, and that they might be possibly meant to be used by us.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because I live so close to this that I've become numb. But I looked at that state police guy that pulled me over, and I said, will you put me and my son in a re-education camp? And he started smiling like it was funny. Folks, we have the Army manual. Will you pull it up for me from 2 years ago, where they're training, they've hired, speaking of 200,000, they're trying to hire and train 200,000 jail guards to be in the Army now as a domestic jail guard force. And Harry Belafonte on the GOP, quote, we're going to play this coming back, Obama needs to work like a third world dictator and just put all these guys in jail. That story is up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And folks, we've played, can we get the FBI clip of the weatherman We've played saying how when they took over, they'd put 50 million of us in there and kill 25 million of us. Listen, we're not just saying this. They've got a battle plan. They're going to start a civil war, trying to take our guns. Then they're going to shut off the resources, and they do. Their dream is to rape our wives in re-education camps and stomp our guts out. Ugly, evil communists working for foreign banks. We're going to play that when we come back. Alex Jones here, back live. Yeah, we're going to put it together on the nightly news tonight. Melissa Melton's doing the news, but we're going to get together all these clips where so-called leftists and Marxists say they're going to put us in re-education camps. And where they say they're going to kill us. You have to understand, though, I would go out and protest the taking of a rancher's property. And there'd be fake environmentalists there who would come over and say when the camera was off, look, we're going to kill you when we take over America. We're going to put you in a camp, and we're going to kill you after we work you to death. Is that clear? And I'd be like, whoa. And I've caught some of this on tape at the RNC in New York. I kept running into communists everywhere, Marxist and the Maoist Youth Brigade and all this, and I'd be very polite. This is in my film, Martial Law, 911 The Road to Tyranny. So I know Melissa Melton's in there listening. Grab that clip, too. And I say, listen, Stalin killed, tens of millions. Mao did. And they say, too bad he didn't kill you. And you hear them say, we're going to get you and we're going to kill you. And the thing is, communists, I've been around a lot of them. And I've been around leftists interviewing them, and off record they go, I'm really a communist. When we take over, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill others. One time I flew somebody down here to interview them and never even aired it because after that we went to dinner and they were talking about how they're going to kill everybody. And it was so creepy. And they said this in front of people. And the point is they get this wild look in their eyes. I mean, let me explain something, ladies and gentlemen. If they have their way, they're going to rape your wife and your children right in front of you. And after they're done working you to death, they're going to blow your brains out. Okay, I've been around these people. And they talk about one thing. How they're going to move into your house. Now they're going to rape your wife, and now they're going to put you in a camp. They live to wear black uniforms and strut around at bases. That is their dream. And we're going to get Larry Gothwald on soon to talk about how he would hang around with these folks, Ayers and others. Let's go to the Harry Belafonte. It just freaks me out so bad that this is the type of garbage. Oh, no, Chavez isn't a dictator. He just steals all the elections. And there's Harry Belafonte with Chavez. Folks, I know people. I have good friends that have had to leave Venezuela, who had their family, tiny businesses taken over. Okay, and Chavez's people will like knife you in the street. I mean, it's just disgusting. There's all these weirdos out there. You see, the opposition to the New World Order is a bunch of communists, and that's banker run to begin with. Here is Belafonte with Al Sharpton. It's up at Infowars.com. Here's the video.
And I don't know what more they want. The only thing left for Barack Obama to do is to work like a third world dictator and just put all these guys in jail. I mean, you're violating the American desire.
Yeah, well, there's the full quote too. You can back it up. Let me give you the full quote here. Imprison opposition like a third world dictator, put you in a re-education camp. The full video's up at Infowars.com. And that just shows how absolutely twisted these people are. Act like a third world dictator, round up the GOP, put them in jail. And what did the Democrat House member in Michigan say? What did he say? He said it's time to, get out there. There's going to be blood. That's what's going to happen. And again, the jobs were already shipped overseas by the globalists, by the people they love so much. We're going to go to Neil. Then we're going to go to Steve and Bill and others. We'll continue with your calls here. And then we do have Dr. Blaylock scheduled to be on this in about 10 minutes. We are continuing the special that we are running right now, where you can get the premier stainless steel gravity-fed filter. You can also get the fluoride filters with it. The Pro Pure at InfoWarsStore.com. 15% off with the code WATER15. WATER15. You get 15% off, the already lowest price out there. We can't guarantee you'll get it by Christmas, but we still do have some in stock. So you can get it right now at InfoWarsStore.com. or 888-253-3139. You can also get 10 memberships for the price of one to prisonplanet.tv and get all your Christmas shopping done. Let's go right to your calls. Let's go to Neil in Canada, farming and prepping. That sounds evil. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I'm calling from Canada, as I said. Anyway, I'm a little nervous. I haven't called on air the first time.
Welcome.
So, yes, I was watching a movie that I downloaded last. And have you ever heard of Michael Rupert?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I watched his film about his take on 9/11. It sounded very convincing that that's how it probably happened. And he's a bit more of a pessimist. He just says basically it's going to happen. Get prepared. Get ready. It's going to happen. I guess I more take on his side. I'm not saying that what you guys do is not helpful. I think if anything, you're slowing down the New World Order crowd. You're slowing them down.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. Mike's an interesting fellow. My issue is he thinks everything's going to collapse because our world's unsustainable. Well, the globalists are artificially collapsing it. Sure, there's some problems with our industrial society, and it could be cleaner and better, but they're just opportunistically, the globalists are, using that as Agenda 21 to implode things. And so they push the whole peak oil thing and the rest of it while they try to shut off coal, while they try to build more nuclear, which is just crazy. So, you know, that's my take on it, is that it is globalist propaganda, the whole peak oil thing. That doesn't mean somebody's bad or somebody's an agent if they believe it. It just means I disagree with them, and I know where that worldview originated from. And it originated from the globalists. Do you see what I'm saying?
I would rather be safe than sorry, and I'm on a fixed income. You know, I can't help it. I'm on disability up here in Canada. And I'm going to do what little I can, you know, incrementally. Hopefully the collapse won't happen very soon, you know, if it does at all. I mean, I just want to be ready for when, if and when it happens.
Well, I mean, Canada's run by the Queen and her Governor General. And so other than social engineering and destroying the family and domesticating people, Canada is probably one of the safer zones to be in. It's an incredible police state with a velvet glove on it. Very authoritarian, but for the general energy units, the human resource units known as humans there, it'll be one of the better zones. The globalists plan civil war and mass re-education and extermination here in the U.S. if they get their way.
If they're going to send us to camps, I don't even know if there are camps in Canada.
Oh, yeah, you have emergency relocation centers that operates as the cover for internment facilities. That's on record. And there is you are under NORTHCOM. You are under a EU, American Union, bilateral 2007 NORTHCOM agreement. So you're actually under NORTHCOM. You're in the military jurisdiction of the Sachs-Coburg, Gotha, Rothschild, Rockefeller Combine. In an area designated as an energy sector and globalist elite retreat.
Yeah, I was wondering, what if the U.S. economy does implode, which we do believe it likely will happen, would our dollar become just as worthless as yours? No.
But it will be devalued. I mean, and that's a probability scenario. Again, you're fully captured. And so, again, you've never really resisted the New World Order. So you'll be murdered later. The United States, after they're done using us as the empire, is to be absolutely decimated and the population implanted with diseases and cancer and just slaughtered up one side and down the other.
I was more like, I don't know if any of those pepper books have anything about more all natural farming, like 19th century.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful, and globalists are targeting it everywhere, while saying they like it on one side of their mouth, savagely releasing bureaucrats worldwide to attack it any way they can. They see any natural human activity as the enemy. They want you dead after they suck the energy out of you. They see you as a human resource energy unit. We'll be back. Stay with us. I remember, well, interviewing him more than a decade ago, and so much of what he first talked about has now been documented and admitted on the subject of coconut oil helping stop or reverse Alzheimer's, that statin drugs were attacking people's brains. He developed decades ago the term excitotoxin, which is now in the mainline literature. He doesn't really toot his horn, but he's one of the top medical advisors and writers over at Newsmax.com, and or at least he has been in the past, and he is just a trailblazer who speaks to giant packed houses all over the country and the world, to medical doctors, and he has just pioneered so much of what we now know about chronic inflammation in the brain, from vaccines, you name it. Dr. Russell Blaylock is a registered board-certified neurosurgeon and a best-selling author. He is a former clinical assistant professor of neurosurgery at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. He is the author of a number of books and numerous scientific papers and articles, including Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills, 1994, Health and Nutrition Secrets That Can Save Your Life, 2002, Natural Strategies for Cancer Patients, 2003, and writes a monthly newsletter, the Blaylock Wellness Report. And I'm not going to go through all of his incredible bio. RussellBlaylockMD.com is just one of his websites, or BlaylockWellnessCenter.com. And in the second part of the interview this hour, we'll get into vaccines damaging the brain, these low cholesterol diets, what that's doing on top of the statins, some stuff that can really help people. Because I'm starting to hear this in mainline radio, mainline news, and folks, we need to appreciate trailblazers. Because I remember when he was on 3.5 years ago, during the fake H1N1, saying it's all fake, it'll increase your chances of getting the flu, it's going to actually hurt people. All of that a year later came out in Canadian, German studies. But he got attacked by the national media for coming on this show and for talking about it. And you know, the point is this is a guy who full-time tries to warn people and who's going out, and because we've sent people to interview him, you know, in big cities where there's, 2,000 doctors packing the room, sold out, to where we can't even get seats, but we're in the back videotaping it, so we can come back and show it to you here on the news, what he breaks down. And he is one of the unsung revolutionaries that's going to lead the new renaissance out of this. So when we talk about stuff for Alzheimer's, this is one of the leading experts. You better listen. The medical establishment is ignorant at the low level, but on top, the system does not want you to know about these treatments that are incredible. So I've said that. The reason I want to get him on in the first part of the interview, we'll show viewers, if you're radio listeners, this is up at Infowars.com, CEO sees Obama health law doubling some premiums. Health insurance premiums may as much as double for some small businesses. Aetna CEO is saying this. Health insurance premiums may as much as double for some small businesses and individual buyers in the U.S. when the Affordable Care Act's major provisions kick in. And that is what their chief executive said. Here's another one. L.A. Times, Blue Shield of California seeks rate hike of 20%, and then another 20% in 2014. Folks, my dad manages, he corrected me, I said a dozen, I always just say a dozen when I know it's something like that, 18 dental offices. But he also manages a bunch of other healthcare stuff, non-dental. I'm not going to get into it, but he's a dentist, oral surgeon. Everything Dr. Blaylock told us about Obamacare 3 years ago is exactly what my dad says, but now it's happening. Two big medical groups just are leaving the United States. They're just shutting down in Texas. They're just not going to operate now. Most of the dentists he knows, some of them that are 50 years old, they got 20 years in them. They're just retiring. They're done. I'm going to have Dr. Blaylock have the floor here and tell you what this is going to do. Of course, the government knows it's going to wreck health care. Then they take it over. The insurance companies wrote this. It doesn't cover pre-existing, all the fools let they get a free lunch. It lets the government say through a computer what treatments you can give. And that's why doctors are just, I'm done. I'm not going to have a death panel. That's what it is. As Bill Gates said, call it a death panel. We need it. The government now runs our health care. The government. The IRS now gets your health records. Nixon was going to go to jail for having IRS records, and he's the president. Now it's just on the books that the giant bureaucracy has it. I'm going to shut up now. Sir, go over it all for us here. And now people are seeing this wasn't rhetoric. The fools out there now are going to see a doubling in the next few years of their health care cost Because an industry now can force you to buy their product. Dr. Blaylock.
Well, you're exactly right. And of course, what people need to understand, this isn't new. This wasn't created under the Obama administration. This wasn't in the last 10 years. They have been working on this for over half a century. These people have been obsessed with taking over medical care because medical care is such a huge segment of the economy. It's important to control people. It's important if you want to control populations. If they want to implement their ideas, which you can read about many years ago, back in 1910, they were talking about controlling births, killing off old people because they were no longer useful to society. So all this was in the plans, and they've been working on it all of this time. Now, as a physician, we saw it much earlier than everyone else because they did it incrementally. And 20, 30 years ago, I was fighting this when I was in practice. My fellow physicians, I had more opposition from the fellow physicians than I did the enemies in government and other places, the liberals, the left who wanted this. Your fellow physician who was fighting you the most. The reason was they thought, well, you know, we're pretty smart guys, and I think if we just work with them, we just let them know that we'll help them save cost and we'll be reasonable in what we do, then they're going to come around and say, okay, that's all we wanted you to do is be reasonable. I told these physicians, I said, you don't understand socialism and collectivism, and you haven't read these papers written by these designers, these elitist social engineers. They don't care whether you're reasonable or not. Their intention is total, absolute control. Well, we've arrived. We're here now. Now, the purpose of doubling premiums and private insurance is to force you into the government total control.
And you said that. You said that. It's meant to bankrupt the system. And for those that don't know, they're going after former state medical board doctors and people, the states and the feds. For those that don't know, they're arresting and harassing doctors everywhere that give you the care you need when they don't follow what the computer tells them to do.
Oh, some of the cases are just unbelievable of the abuse of the physician. Because the physician was handed a group of rules when you join Medicare or Medicaid. And the rules, of course, like all socialist systems to draw you in, at first are lax, they're not enforced. And then once you're hooked, then they start increasing the number of regulations, the number of laws, and then they start picking physicians to make examples of. Well, we've reached a lot of those cases now. There's a case that's just recently reported in which a 63-year-old vascular surgeon was targeted, and they examined over 4,000 of his records. They found 2 records in which they said, well, you know, some of your language is not proper. He left out a T-O. And his coding for 5 patients was challenged by the federal government. Now, if you don't understand medical coding, everything a doctor does, to the most minor procedure in the office, to the most complex surgery, has a CPT code. It's a government code, which has to do with reimbursement. You're told as a physician, everything you do in which you bill the government has to have a CPT code. Well, the problem is there are tens of thousands of procedures for which there's no CPT code. So when we ask, well, what do we do about that? They said, well, just code it as close as you can. Physicians took them at their word. Well, now they've decided we need some examples of physician abuse. So they target people like this vascular surgeon. They said, you coded improperly, and we're going to put you in jail. And, of course, he's gotten a sentence of 10 months in prison, defrauding the federal government. Now, did he defraud the government? Well, this is the interesting thing about the law. The law says we don't have to show that you intended in any way to defraud the government. Just making an error is evidence of fraud and abuse.
And that's why all these companies are even getting out of the business now. The big mega insiders are left alone. It's the smaller and medium-sized companies can be white glove inspected. There's no way to operate. That's why these companies are just shutting down. successful, providing good care, profitable, they're just shutting down, which again, the socialists know that will bankrupt the whole system. And then you'll be forced into total government control.
That's right, and that's what they want. You know, socialism is about control. People need to understand that. All these people that are excited about socialism and collectivism, it's about human control. You're told what to do. If you don't, and you're not obedient, you're going to be punished. They make that quite plain, and this is what the physicians are learning now. I told them that 20 years ago. They didn't believe it. Now they're going to prison for very long terms, 10 years, 20 years, ruining their life, taking their license away.
And by the way, I hear that exact talk for a decade. You know, the doctors and the companies say, we're just going to work with them and be reasonable, and we're sure we'll be all right. No, there's no way out. You're being mafia taken over.
Right. And they're targeting these people and destroying their reputations, destroying their life, put them in prison with common criminals, and you could be killed in prison. I have cases of physicians in which they purposely tried to do that. They moved them across the country so they couldn't be near their families. You know, this is just stuff right out of the Soviet Union and communist China that we're seeing implemented.
Yeah, they're targeting the intelligentsia that has served the system so well. They're now just a high-tech lynching. Like Pol Pot shot people with glasses who can read. Here, they just take your license and put you in jail. We'll be back with Dr. Blaylock on the other side to break down the technicals of Obamacare. Get ready to pay double. That's your free health care. We are back live, ladies and gentlemen. Retired brain surgeon, best-selling author, Dr. Russell Blaylock is our guest for the balance of the hour. Then will be news and calls in the third hour coming up. Now, again, a lot of doctors say, well, I can't even make money doing this. It's too dangerous. I'm out of health care. Well, you predicted that. That's the plan, bankrupt it. But and it takes a huge majority now to overturn Obamacare, really banker care, globalist, eugenics care. What do you now predict, Dr. Blaylock, is going to happen as people learn, as Bill Gates has laughed, we may play that clip later, that, yeah, death panels are good. Well, now we see the social engineering. Well, if we're all collectivized, the government's going to say what you eat and where you go and what you do and what surgeries you get. And guess what? That's what they've already done in England, where you wait, 18 months on average for brain surgeries that you need to get it quickly or you're going to die. I mean, I've watched the House of Commons debates. I haven't. How are they going to sell this and keep this in place when it wrecks everything?
Well, the idea is every failure is going to be because of sabotage. If you look at the Soviet system and all the communist socialist systems, they do the same thing. When they start to fail, it's not their fault. It's because people were sabotaging it. The doctors weren't playing fair. The doctors were cheating. The patients weren't doing right. So they just throw more money at it. They increase the regulations, the control. And so the answer is always, the problem is we don't have enough control of all the variables, which means oppression. We have to oppress the public and the providers and the whole medical care system, and then it'll work. And once people take this bitter medicine, they realize, gee, now we've arrived at the utopia. You know, as I tell people, collectivism and socialism depends on what's called the big lie. You paint this illusion of this utopia that's coming, and you tell people, just keep your eye on the painting, on the mural. Don't pay attention to reality. They're never allowed to look at reality. And every time they do, they say, just look back at the mural. Look what's coming if you just do what you're told. So people get on board. And you know, every communist country, every communist that's escaped has said the same thing. They were all true believers in the beginning, and very, very quickly they understood that we're being deceived, we're being lied to, we're being led and regimented and controlled. And that's what this is all about. So, of course, there's going to be devastation, there's going to be death, there's going to be people dying, there's going to be care denied. But they'll say, oh, this is just the painful growth pains. This is the birth pains of the coming utopia. Once we ferret all this out, it's going to be great. And of course, all this pain is because of the previous system. You know, it's just like they always blame Bush or they blame somebody else for every system that happens. A disaster in this administration is due to the previous administration. And so the fact that capitalism existed for so long and private property and this excessive freedom That's why we're having to go through these terrible birth pains. So they're going to justify every failure, just to show how idiotic this thing is. There's a law that says if a physician charges the taxpayer too little money, he is guilty of a crime. Now, this is unbelievable. The whole idea of these doctors going to prison is that they were defrauding the taxpayer. Well, here, if you actually are saving the taxpayer money by undercoding, that is coding for a less expensive procedure, you're also guilty of a crime, just the same as if you overcharge the government.
And for those that don't know, that's the age-old thing where doctors and the Hippocratic Oath, Ron Paul's talked about it here on the show, a medical doctor, that you were told going to medical school, you should do about a third of your work discounted or for free on a case-by-case example. And if it's some equipment or prosthesis or things, you should approach a charity to come in and pay for it, because this is a sacred honor to be a physician. Will you explain to them the old system and why Ron Paul pointed out nobody ever went without health care? Citizens just didn't know about it. The illegal aliens all know about it.
Well, when I was in medicine, for 40 years, counting my residency, we gave away millions of dollars of free care. I got up in the middle of the night and operated all night long on people who were indigent or for whatever reason, they didn't have money, and we didn't charge them anything. Every Christmas, we would go through our bills, and we would find elderly people who were trying to pay their bills off a little bit at a time. We would cancel their bills. We used to give insurance only. We would tell patients if they had difficulty paying the charge out of pocket, we would say, well, we'll just accept insurance.
Stay there. Let's explain what the old good medicine was that's now been taken over the last 30 years, now converting to pure eugenics-based death medicine, death panels. They now brag the government runs your medicine. Unbelievable. We'll be right back with Dr. Blaylock. You know, it really hit me yesterday when I got pulled over for reportedly going 8 miles over the speed limit. I'm going to challenge the ticket, of course. It's all a fraud anyways. And the guy said, sign here. And I didn't have my latest insurance card, even though their computer showed I had insurance. They gave me a ticket for that, too. And I was just thinking, you know, they make you buy car insurance, but then they let the illegal aliens be exempt. And it just really hit me that now I've got to go buy health care, even though I already have insurance. And now, obviously, it's written by the insurance companies. It's going to go up in price. And they get to charge you more for less procedures and also make sure the doctors and the medical facility get less of that money. So, you know, they might charge you $1 million pretty soon to put a Band-Aid on you. And this is what happens in every communist or socialist or collective system. And why is Bill Gates and Warren Buffett supporting it? Well, they're taking over healthcare. And they admit it's death panels. I want to finish up with Obamacare with Dr. Russell Blaylock here in a moment in this long segment we have, and segue into the cholesterol conspiracy, statin drugs, vaccines this year, the biggest push I've ever seen for them. His website's BlaylockWellnessCenter.com. Amazing books, and also some pretty amazing healthcare products that he's developed as well. So again, BlaylockWellnessCenter.com, or just Google Russell Blaylock, MD, and it's pretty easy to find. Or start page at startpage.com. But briefly here, don't forget, we are listener supported. When you click on the web banners and support our sponsors, that funds our operations at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And we promote, and you hear me endorse on there, things I use, like the high-quality products at InfoWarsHealth.com, the essential fatty acids, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, all of it. That supports the broadcast, InfoWarsHealth.com, plus great products we've researched with medical doctors and others, finding the best products out there. But also things like the ProPure stainless steel water filtration systems. Clean water is so important. There's so many additives, so many toxins, sodium fluoride, you name it. We've got fluoride filters available with it. InfoWarsStore.com, promo code WATER15. You can get 15% off. We're going to end that promotion this Sunday. And some people can still get it by Christmas. We can't guarantee it now, though, just because of the way shipping works. But you can order. It's a great gift to give. Water 15 That's water15 is the promo code to get 15% off on the already lowest price at InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139. And lastly, you can do all your Christmas shopping at once. You know, we stream video of the daily radio show and the nightly news 5 nights a week, 7 o'clock. All my films, my book, Paul Watson's book, thousands of special productions. It's really ridiculous how much is there. PrisonPlanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com. One membership, $5.95 a month, now can be used by 10 people simultaneously with one username and passcode you create. Give it as a gift, just an e-card or in a physical card. Hey, here's your documentary, you know, news website subscription. 59 cents a month is how much that gift is to give people, and it supports our transmission. Not really at that price. That just pays for the bandwidth and our growing media platform, PrisonPlanet.tv. Okay, Dr. Blaylock, this is a long segment. I want to try to shut up and give you the floor here, you know, for some large spaces to finish up where you see we're going and ways to hopefully reverse Obamacare, because they lied and said it will not increase premiums. Obviously, it would immediately because it was written by the insurance companies. And where you see all this going, ways to fight it. And then I want to segue into suddenly ABC News, CBN, you name it, about coconut oil that you wrote about, I don't know, 20 years ago or whatever, and other types of good fats and what they're doing for the brains, and, you know, the fact that so many of these disorders we see are really just nutrient deficiencies, and some of that information, because it's something that people can really do right now.
To go back to the Obamacare, what's coming? You know, the interesting thing when I first read through the Obamacare thing that struck me is that it really says specifically very little. What it does is it refers to literally tens of thousands of other federal documents, rules, and regulations. And it leaves a lot to arbitrary change after the law is enacted. Now, what's coming is, and you got to remember, when Hillary first tried to create this system, when her husband was the president, she met with all the major pharmaceutical CEOs in secret because they were going to make a killing out of nationalizing health care, because they would be the sole supplier of all medicines all over the United States. No one else would be allowed to supply these medications. That would get rid of their competition. The same thing holds here. And what we're going to see is that the manufacturers of vaccines that have been anointed, that were anointed during the H1N1, are going to be told, are going to tell the public, in order to receive this care, you have to have all your vaccinations up to date.
By the way, they're already doing that, as you know, with medical workers, anybody that goes to the hospital. But they're already saying if you want your welfare check, you've got to get all the shots. So this is forced government medicine, medical tyranny.
Exactly, and it's all designed to control people. So if you go to your doctor for, say, a carpal tunnel problem, you're going to be told, well, we looked at your record and you haven't had your meningococcal vaccine this year. So you're going to have to get it or you can't be treated. So everyone now is going to be force vaccinated. The companies like Merck and Novartis are going to make fortunes if you're vaccinating every human being in the United States, and eventually they plan for the entire world.
Unbelievable.
You'll be told what you can eat, what you cannot eat. You'll be told when to exercise, how much exercise to do. You're going to be told you have to take statins, you have to take antihypertensive medications. The children will be placed on these medications. This is already being discussed. They were even talking about putting these medications in the water supply to force everyone to be on these medications, whether they wanted to or not.
And by the way, as you're talking, I just can't help but butt in. Everything you're talking about is already being phased in, with the mayor of New York saying what you can drink, what you can eat, with Michelle Obama. My kids were going to private school part-time, and even this Christian school 2 days a week as an academy for homeschoolers. It was big. They were accredited, so they had to do workbooks on Michelle Obama telling them what was healthy. But she doesn't tell you GMO or aspartame is bad or MSG. She tells you you get 850 calories a day, and the kids are literally starving. I'm sorry. It's just they're now doing forced inoculations in California without parental consent. Everything you're saying is already starting.
Yeah, well, they have a very incremental program to get the public used to it. And they've done an incredible brainwashing of the public on the necessity of vaccination for herd immunity. Herd immunity is a complete fraud, and I've proved it. No one's challenged it. So what they're doing, they're building the case that for the public health, we have to force people to receive all of these vaccines. Well, it's been shown they have over 125 vaccines that they're planning to make mandatory. This is huge profits for these companies, and it's going to destroy the health of tens of millions of Americans. And as you get older and you get these vaccines and your health begins to rapidly deteriorate, guess what? You're not going to be allowed to get health care that you think you're going to get, because you're going to be on the list of people that's too old to get these procedures done. So you're going to be left to die. There's your death panels. Now, all of this has been talked about on the healthcare sites and these tax-free foundations for almost half a century. People just have not been reading it. They're not paying attention. You've brought up so many of these things to the public. You read these documents. You dig these things out. But unfortunately, it sounds so outlandish and crazy and conspiratorial. People just can't bring themselves to believe it. And it's like C.S. Lewis in his book, The Screwtape Letters. He said that the devil's greatest weapon is that people don't believe in him. Well, the collectivist and the socialist and the communist greatest weapon is that you don't believe they're going to do these nefarious things.
Well, yeah, they now laugh and say there's no such thing as socialism or communism anymore, even though it's taking over the whole planet.
Well, what they do is they do wordplay. They said, this is not socialism. Well, in a technical definition and previous definitions of socialism, it's not, because socialism is the nationalization of all businesses and industry. The new socialism, which was Antonio Gramsci's idea, and later Saul Alinsky's popularized it, was that we don't actually take over the company, we just regulate it. And we regulate how much it produces, how much it pays its employees, what is their work hours, what is the...
Exactly. The communists can't ever run anything but a death camp, so they just sit back and you run your operation and they siphon it off and tell you what to do.
That's exactly right. That's what National Socialism was. That's what fascism in Italy was. And that's what we have today, what's called corporatism. Now, if you look back in the history of collectivism, it was based on the corporate model. They loved the corporation because the corporation has an elite board that makes all the decision, regiments all of its employees, controls all the systems and everything within the corporation. And they said, what we need to do is produce a corporate America and then a corporate world in which a giant corporation rules everything. Everybody thinks this is government taking over corporations. No, it's just the opposite. It's corporations taking over the government. Because what you have is Council on Foreign Relations. Look at the list of people in Council on Foreign Relations. It's the CEOs and directors of every major corporation in the United States. Look at the Trilateral Commission. Same thing. All the major international corporations and financial houses. Look at Bilderberger. Same list, same people. And it's all corporate. Now, the dream of the Rockefellers was that we would create a corporate control of the United States. They look at government and they say government's inefficient. And this is the whole essence of collectivism, is efficiency. Well, efficiency means making people do what they don't want to do, taking their freedom away. We know best as an elite, they say, what you need to do, where you need to be, where you need to live, what your occupation should be, what you should eat, when you should die, if you should live. This is what socialism, collectivism is. And if you pay close attention to what they're saying, that's what they're telling you. We're the smart people. We know how to engineer society. Society's chaotic under capitalism and freedom. We can't stand this chaos anymore. We need to have social engineering and social control. And that's what all of this is about.
How do we fight it? How do we resist them? I mean, one thing is I'm trying to exercise more. I'd become a workaholic and gained a lot of weight and gotten unhealthy. I'm reversing that by the grace of God. I mean, I guess we get healthy and we exercise and we really get the proper nutrition, understanding that there's not going to be a medical system to go to soon. And this isn't a joke. I mean, Paul Watson's worked for me 10 years this year. It's 10 years. Great shape, jogs, 3% body fat, lives in England, riding, for us. And I told you the story last time you were on, Doc. For a month, he had some type of strep and cold, couldn't get over it, had been into the doctor, waited 2 weeks to get in. I couldn't imagine having to wait 2 weeks the few times I've really had to go. I mean, I'm like, get me in there now when you're coughing up blood. I mean, it was rough. And then 2 weeks into it, he finally got in, and they gave him a little pack with some aspirin and some Advil and some Tylenol and some lozenges and some, Kleenex and stuff. And you said, I guess, in the military, that's what you gave you. I got a lot of emails about that. That's what they say they give you in the military. There wasn't like when I go to a private clinic, boom, I'm in 20 minutes. They swab the throat. They say, we'll call you in 2 hours and tell you what the prescription is, because if it's bacterial or viral, they got to find out. These quack doctors, you go to them, they just give you antibiotics, don't even check. But, the clinics, places I go, they do. I couldn't imagine that. And then I said, why don't you go to private doctors? I said, I know you have those. He goes, listen, Alex, you've got to get permission from the government clinic to then go to the private physician. I mean, this is total control. I'm sorry to tell that story again, but this is total tyranny.
Well, it's an example of the regimentation. You're not an individual. The enemy of collectivism is the individual. You read all of the literature on the philosophy of these socialism, communism, Marxism, Leninism, fascism, National Socialism. It's always the same. The enemy is the individual. They don't recognize individual. They recognize collectives. You're a number. You're a Social Security number. You're some other kind of number. And if we have to deny you care, or if you die waiting for care, it's no big deal. You were just a number. And people are not used to that in the United States. As a Christian, we recognize individuals. God recognizes individuals. And, you say, what can we do? Well, number one, we've got to re-strengthen our faith. They have spent enormous efforts to convince people there's no God, that Jesus is not the Son of God. And so they've destroyed the faith base of the foundation of our country. We need to reestablish that, number one, over everything else. We can improve our health so that if we are forcibly vaccinated, we're not likely to have the devastating reactions to these vaccines. We know how to do that now. We know how to improve health of the elderly so that they don't get sick. They are seriously ill like they do now. Many of the neurodegenerative diseases can be prevented by proper exercise and use of nutrients and diet. The other thing that we could do is nullification. That is the most important weapon we have left. The vote has been taken away by voter fraud. So no matter how you vote, they're going to cheat, change the machines, change the vote, get people in that are illegal to vote, etc. So what the states have left is the state can nullify laws by passing its own state laws. And if you're in a court, if you're on a jury, and it's a federal case, say an IRS case against a citizen or an EPA case or one of these medical cases, and you're on the jury, you can nullify it by voting not guilty, no matter what the evidence shows. That is the law of the land of the Constitution. And this was established in the beginning of the United States because the courts had judges that were British and the American juries.
God bless you. I don't know if you heard this a month ago, but it made national news. I've called for the Second American Revolution to use the Declaration of Independence to not create a new country, but to remove the globalist and reinstate the republic. It's an instant download, re-upload. And what you're saying is so true. There's election fraud. Obama didn't really win. I'm not saying Romney was good either. He wrote Obamacare for the globalists. The point is it was all fixed. Only admitting that we're under real authoritarianism that now plans to mop us up, only admitting how much trouble we're in will beat them. The minute we understand they're lying criminal authoritarians, hell-bent on enslaving us, we turn the tide. Do you agree with that statement, Dr. Blaylock?
Exactly. You can't compromise with evil. These are evil people. They have evil intentions. So this nonsense of the Republican Party saying, oh, well, our problem is we had too many conservatives. Oh, we're defending...
God bless you. I want to hear exactly. We're going to talk about that when we get back. We've got 2 short segments left with Dr. Blaylock, and then we're going to go to your phone calls, those of you patiently holding, and then into all the other news I haven't gotten to yet. But Harry Belafonte went on Al Sharpton's show and said we should, quote, just lock people up. We should just round up the Republicans and like third world dictators do and, quote, throw them in jail. And that's exactly what the weathermen came out in federal court were planning to do, the people that advise Obama. You see, I've studied these people. And just like Dr. Blaylock was just saying, this stuff all sounds crazy. It's because truth is stranger than fiction. And the very same crews and the sciences that the Nazis and the Soviets and the Maoists used are now being used here. I've talked to so many former Eastern Europeans who are successful businessmen and women who fled here in the 70s and 80s. And they are so freaked out. They're scared for America because they say, well, I have seen this. I have heard this. This is a blueprint. And exactly what Dr. Blaylock said, folks, we've got to really understand this is war. This isn't just some boss hog corruption taking over. These are vicious control freaks. Anything else on that subject, Dr. Blaylock? And then some basic facts on why do you think it's starting to come out that so many of the Alzheimer problems are the statin drugs and the lack of good oils?
Well, yeah, you know, the Harry Belafontes and these people making these statements, they've been empowered by the rise of the left. The left is seeing and flexing its muscles because they're seeing that they're winning, essentially. And they're winning by stealing elections. Now, what we need to do is, as I say, use the power of nullification on juries. You can protect your fellow citizen against these abuses by the federal government. Just serve on a jury. Now, the judge cannot direct you how to vote. People get intimidated because they say, well, the judge gave us instructions. Well, he can instruct all day long.
So jury nullification, elaborating on that point you made before the break, though, and then we'll get into the other issue briefly here. When you talk about Republicans, that is waving the white flag when they were always part of the establishment to say, we need to accept socialism. And, Glenn Beck comes out and says, we need to push, basically gay marriage or whatever, because, we need to be like the Democrats. That's how we'll win. That's all football issues anyways. My point is, that's a total capitulation. And the left says, oh, great, look, we're totally taking over. They're going to give in to us.
Well, yes, and once you yield in one area, they'll just force you to yield in another. I mean, all they have to do is make something else unpopular. They have to make the fact that you want to own property unpopular. Make the fact that you want to own a gun and protect your family unpopular. Make the fact that you want to choose your own food and grow a garden in your yard unpopular. And then with each case, we're going to compromise. What we've seen over the last 75 years is we're always compromising towards the left. There's never a compromise toward the right. We always to the left. Now, those of us that are a lot older, what we know is that if you look back in 1950s, when I was growing up, if any of these things were even discussed back then, people would laugh at you and say, there's no way the American people would allow that. You got to be crazy. So if you go back in time in a time capsule, they would laugh you out of the room.
And now the official Army manuals, as we pull those up, I want to give the number, say they're now preparing, quote, re-education centers. Doctor, they even use the Soviet term.
Oh, exactly. This is what's so shocking is they even use the terminology that's used by KGB and the Cheka from the Soviet Union. They don't even have any qualms about using this terminology now because they feel, well, we've won. There's nothing they can do. They've lost the battle, and we're going to implement our programs against their will. This government today is using executive power more than any president has ever dreamed of, even FDR. So
the president won't even let Congress see his secret executive order on cybersecurity. Why even have a Congress? Stay there 5 more minutes with Dr. Blaylock, and he's going to get into some of the oils and the fact that what he's been talking about forever is now becoming mainstream, which is some good news. It's Army Manual FM 3-39.40. Re-education camps now being established for political dissidents in the United States. And what do the manuals say the political dissidents are? Gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, Christians who believe in the second coming of Christ, number one enemy, returning veterans. Anybody they think will fight their armed takeover. And they're just getting rid of the good cops and police and military that know the truth and creating a cadre. Dr. Blaylock, in closing on that subject, though, the Soviet Union, you know, before the czars, was already a police state. They didn't have guns. Nazi Germany, people were pretty compliant. In the Weimar Republic, I don't see them fully being successful here if it wasn't for our moral decay. And I'm not on some high horse, but like Ron Paul said, the general public really are demonic slobs now in this country. But that doesn't mean that a large minority of us are still going to go quietly into the Soviet night.
Well, you know, your moral strength is the only protection you have. Once a country loses its moral strength, then you'll compromise with anything. You just say, well, in order to feed my family, I'll go ahead and do this. And if they want me to round up people and help them do that, or spy on my neighbors, I'll do that. Whatever it takes, because you have no moral values anymore. You're into this relativism.
And you're really stupid and don't know that you always end up getting rounded up later yourself.
And you're going to be targeted because they can't trust you. This is one of the things you learn if you read the history of the Soviet Union and China and Cuba, is they kill their own because they can't trust them. Castro killed his best friend because he couldn't trust him. You know, a friend of mine, Dennis Cuddy, has written some of the best books digging into the history of all of this. I would urge your readers to look up Dennis Cuddy on Amazon.com.
Yeah, let's get Dr. Cuddy back on. We only got 2 minutes left, Doc. You got to come back soon. I know you're a busy man. Briefly, the coconut oil thing. That's finally starting to break. What does coconut oil do with Alzheimer's, but some of the other oils? And what do statins do to your brain?
Well, coconut oil contains a very high level of what's called medium-chain triglycerides. It's one of the few fuels that the brain can use other than glucose, sugar. We think that what happens in Alzheimer's disease is the brain is no longer able to utilize sugar efficiently, and so the brain goes into periods of hypoglycemia, and you become confused, disoriented, lose memory. If that keeps up, it triggers excitotoxicity in the brain and starts destroying these connections. Well, what the coconut oil does, it reduces brain inflammation, which is a major part of all of this process, reduces excitotoxicity, calms those microglia down, and it supplies a fuel to the brain so the brain can operate efficiently and will not be producing these huge storms of free radicals that occur when it's starving. So what we see is that the coconut oil is doing so many things to correct what we know is impaired in the Alzheimer's brain.
But medical doctors won't tell their patients to take it.
Well, they don't know about it. They won't read the literature. You know, they wait to be told what drug to use. They're all waiting for the drug that cures Alzheimer's.
It really is the intellectual laziness is what's killing us. It's not that people aren't smart. They're lazy.
Well, that and the government has them so busy trying to protect themselves. They're so busy filling out forms and reading manuals and CPT codes and that they don't have time to actually go and research it. And they're exhausted at the end of the day after dealing with the bureaucracy all day long.
Well, that's the truth. Yeah, that's
makes a big difference. These are not minor things. And if you look into the research of Alzheimer's disease, these are the hottest areas of research and the scientists are most excited about. It's things like the coconut oil.
Yeah, but you talked about this you were one of the first, weren't you?
Well, a friend of mine, Bruce Fife, wrote a book on it, and I wrote the foreword to his book. But his book is one of the best on this.
Well, Dr. Blaylock, will you promise to come back in the new year?
I'll be glad to.
God bless you. Folks, go to his website right now, BlaylockWellnessCenter.com. Thank you so much, sir. We salute you.
Thank you.
I was just reading the London Guardian about innocent terror suspects being tortured for long periods of time and then raped You see, the people that like to work at black sites, nothing to do with black people, folks. That means secret ghost sites, secret torture facilities at horse stables in Romania and underground facilities in London and facilities in Texas and facilities inside Camp X-Ray in Guantanamo Bay. They like to hurt people. That's how you end up getting a job as a torturer. And as part of the pay for the torturers, they get to hurt and kill little kids. Guys, I'm sure you printed it off, but I couldn't find it in my stack. We printed that London Guardian article we got linked at Infowars.com, the one about sexual torture of the people. The stuff they admit they do at these camps, I can't even say on air. It involves blood. It involves Satanism. And when they got caught flying in prostitutes to do rituals at Camp X-Ray, this is like 8 years ago this came out. When they got caught, it came out because some people at the camp told Congress about it, didn't like it. They said, well, it freaks out the Muslims when we bring the prostitutes in and do this. No, the truth is you like to get them and have satanic rituals. Truth is you're devil worshippers. You see, this is all their cover to do this type of stuff. So I was just looking at that article up at Infowars.com. I could see it up there on screen when we came in from break. And I was reading it earlier this morning. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And every camp where we get news, they're torturing people's wives and kids in front of them. And then you see Jack Bauer on shows like 24 where they torture somebody's kid and it stops the nuke going off in L.A. And all these sickos sit there watching this snuff film porn. All these wimps and all these nobodies. And Homeland Security had this, a few years ago, had this big, ending of 24 party, and Chertoff was there admitting that 24 made them look good. And I mean, all they are is a bunch of sickos. And it comes out everywhere. Who's the Democratic congressman? It was in the Associated Press. It came out after the show yesterday. It was up on Drudge. You guys re-pull that from yesterday's stack for me. Who had the illegal alien working for him, who was a convicted sex offender? Well, of course. I mean, what do you think's going on up there? They're chasing their 14-year-old pages around. They've got illegal alien sex offenders working for them. Folks, I've been to D.C. many times, and anywhere near the elite areas, there's young men and women, prostitutes getting in limos. And you'll have Saudi Arabian, security. We had this happen to our reporters. Come over and go, you turn your camera off now. And then if you don't, Secret Service runs over to back them up. I mean, this isn't a free country, okay? We have got to re-energize it. Senator Menendez, intern arrested, was illegal immigrant and registered sex offender. I mean, just look at that, Senator. They all look just like that guy. Every single one of them. Black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. Little pudgy, little, just a bunch of, it makes me sick. It's unbelievable how disgusting this country's become. I love America, but it's kind of like if you eat some bad food and you know it's food poisoning, you need to get it out of you. A few times I've had food poisoning, something tasted kind of weird, like shrimp or something, and I'm like, it's all right, I'm just going to, and I get sick. Now if something tastes weird when I'm eating it, I get my napkin, I spit it out. And that's the thing, folks. We've got to admit how much trouble we're in. All right, I said I'd go to your calls. We're going to go to them, then to all this other news I've got here. It just totally freaks me out that I'm a mark. I'm an American citizen, and I'm seen as the joke to the globalist. I'm known for being compliant. I'm known for rolling over and putting up with anything. Not me individually, but as an American, I'm seen as dinner by government. And government wants you to fear it. Government struts around. They're authorities. They're officials. They're not servants. Does that mean everybody in government is a bad person? No. But the system is predatory now. And anyone who's historically intellectual and really knows what's going on understands the government's illegitimate. You heard Dr. Blaylock. He is an esteemed, best-selling author, researcher. I'd have him on 10, 12 years ago. He didn't sound like that. Now he's saying the government's illegitimate. We're in deep trouble. They're going to put us in re-education camps. Folks, we've studied history. They're bragging about it. I mean, 15 years ago, I'd be at an event fighting for some farmer having their land taken. Mike Hansen saw stuff like this. My camera guy with me. People walk over. When your camera's off, they go, listen, when we take over, we're going to put you in a camp and work you to death, and we're going to kill you. The first time it happened, I thought, man, that's a weirdo. Every time I'm at a smart growth conference or I'm at an event and liberals, because they're not liberals, come over, they tell me they're going to kill me. And now Harry Belafonte says throw people that don't agree with Obama in gulags. Played that clip earlier. And when you've had them look you dead in the eye and go, we're going to kill you, and you're like, and the cops back them up. I mean, these people think they're sexy revolutionaries and they're dirtbags working for foreign banks that have conquered this country. And they're such cowards, they want the power of the government behind them when they go around abusing people. And I got news for you. You're not going to take this country without a fight, you dirtbag scum, you collectivist parasite filth. You deindustrialize this country so you'd make people come to you. I don't blame people who are on food stamps or welfare. They have shut the economy down in many respects. There are some bad examples and people that abuse it. But they've done this so that people don't have a choice but to serve the system. And the answer is, what do they target? They target rural communities with co-ops. The globalists always claim they're creating co-ops, but they're counterfeits of the real community co-ops, real sustainability. The answer is go to your own wind power and solar and your own community and get out of the system and buy American as much as you can and do everything you can to discredit and talk down the government because it's not real, it's illegitimate, it's an occupying force. And when bureaucrats of the system get in your face, say, hey, I'm not your slave. You really like where things are going? You really think you're going to have a future with this? And support people in the system that do the right thing. I saw an article, and you guys are the best. I'll put it back up on screen for me if you can find it. I had it meant to cover it where the cop gave the guy a $100 speeding ticket. And it was only a few miles over the speed limit. And the cop said, well, look, I'm on camera. Because that's how it is now. That I have no discretion. That's how they phased it in. I'm going to have to give you this ticket. The guy's like, all right, I'm totally broke. I'm going bankrupt. And the cop put a $100 bill in to the ticket. But the point is that the globalists, no amount of kindness like that will reverse it. They'll actuary it out with computers. It's meant to bankrupt us. Yeah, Plano, Texas. Police officer wraps $100 bill in traffic ticket. But the point is, what do you do when you pull over the woman with 5 screaming kids in the back with snot running down their nose? And you can tell the woman's working 2 jobs and the guy that got her pregnant ran off a long time ago. You're going to write that woman a ticket? Yeah, you do. Because now more and more they're telling cops, you write people tickets no matter what. Even the corrupt New York police have come out and had op-ed articles, in the newspaper saying we're being ordered because they have the cases of the pregnant woman that sat on the bench for 5 minutes too long because you're only allowed to sit on, the bench for 10 minutes or whatever, or they're giving people tickets in New York because their windows are still knocked out from the hurricane. The code enforcers are. The system has totally lost its soul because it's designed to. The globalists want ruthless enforcers in place. So it's going to take just generally across the nation a spirit of not going along to bring this down. Because let me tell you, if the police raised $1 trillion, hypothetically, that's a huge number, off the public, the globalists would steal it in 5 seconds. They've designed it. They have unlimited money, zeros and ones, the mega banks. You understand that? They play the monopoly game to get your property and to get you under their control and to get you bankrupted under government control so they can pump vaccines full of cancer viruses into you to kill you. They're now announcing under Obamacare, in the next phase, they're going to make you take all the shots, like Dr. Blaylock was saying. We're going to go to break, and I promise, go to Bill in North Carolina. Be ready, Bill. Very patiently holding. Then Bob in Michigan. then William in New York, Nathan and Angel and others, 800-259-9231. We're going to go to your calls right when we come back from break for the balance of the show with a few news items. It's just that you have to understand, they tell the bureaucrats and people, this is how they raised the rates and started restricting the national parks 16 years ago. They came out and they said, we're going to shut most of the national parks, we're going to fire the park rangers, and we're going to do this and that. To get everybody scared, oh, never mind, we'll just double the rates and shut down parts of the parks and do all this. Okay, we'll do it. You see, that's how they, by controlling the resources, they do this. And they tell the police, because I've talked to countless police that's come out in the news who are in these briefings, we've got to, get the revenue up, and plus you get promoted, the city needs the money, budget shortfall, get out there and write more tickets. Folks, that money goes into city bonds and city investments that's never seen again. Most bonds for things to be built never even get spent on it's all a crime syndicate. This country is totally criminally run. I don't know how else to explain to you. We're on fire, okay? This country is going down by design. You don't think they don't know when they massively increase taxes in California that'd make all the businesses start going belly up and move out of the state? You didn't think they knew that? They want to destroy it. And then only the insiders who are exempt from the taxes will survive. All right, we'll come back after this quick break, go right to your calls. Bill wants to talk about the national anthem. We'll see what that is straight ahead. Stay with us. I don't know, this New World Order isn't in disguise anymore. I think we're so stupid.
You fool me with your kisses.
Now my health care premium's doubled. The death panel says I won't get care. That sounds super trendy. Let's go ahead now and let's talk to Bill in North Carolina. But I got wise. Your re-education camp in disguise. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill. Thanks for holding her on the air, sir.
Yes, thank you for broadcasting your emergency broadcast every day. I'm joining you from North Carolina, FEMA Region 4, and I have been listening to you since 1997, so we've been together quite a while in that regard. I've got what I consider to be a new and improved national anthem that I wrote back in August of this year, and I'll bet you a pro pure king you're going to love it.
Okay.
Okay. Before I begin, with tongue firmly planted in my cheek out of respect, I think we should all stand and put both hands firmly over the center of our derrieres and then simply sit back down. This should provide at least some modest protection from the attacks of the New World Order upon my conclusion. So if you're ready, I shall sing to you my national anthem. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Oh, say, can you see there's a drone overhead, making sure that you're safe from Alciate dread, whose broad wings and red lights take away all your rights, or your fences they fly while your children lay sleeping. Heed the sound cannons blare, microwaves singe your hair. It's proof you're damn right, DHS doesn't care. Oh, say, can we survive this Orwellian malaise, where the TSA says freeze? It's the home of the slave.
Incredible, incredible. I need to get a copy of it and actually write up my own.
Yeah, no doubt.
I had no idea you were going to sing the Star Spangled Banner. It just said that on screen, national anthem, and then I kind of did my own little singing there. And the TSA's pants, pulled down over your head. And the cancer virus is in the shots to prove that you're still dead. Oh, open the borders and ship in the narcotics. I'm sorry.
Well, we can write as many verses as we like, right?
Absolutely. For the land of the coward and the home of the slave.
Well, anyway, I really appreciate your time, and I'll certainly be tuning in. I got InfoWars stickers out there, and I've even got it on the back of my car as well, so trying to get the word out, brother.
That sounds evil. God bless you, sir. Appreciate your call. Thanks for holding to do that. Yeah, I know it sounds like a couple of dogs howling here. Oh, say, can you see the $6 trillion debt? All right, I'm going to stop now. Let's go ahead and talk to Bob in Michigan. Bob, you're on the air. Welcome, sir.
Alex, may peace be with you, my brother.
Thank you. Did you like that singing? I'm ready for, like, America's Got Talent with that, huh?
Hard. Yeah, it's a hard one to follow, I'm telling you. Anyways, we need statesmen. We need statesmen. We need representatives. We need to take our Congress
No,
back.
we need a pot-bellied perv at the TSA line to stick his hands down our wife's pants.
No, we already got that. We need to disrupt that. We need to get rid of that.
No, that's freedom. That's freedom. Hey, we need to be put in forced labor camps. Harry Belafonte's right, sir.
I'm already there, sir.
Good.
Anyways, you said you had a big announcement coming from Ron Paul. Is that coming soon, or do we have a leader?
Okay, okay, let me be clear. Ron Paul's going to announce 3 big things, and I was told part of it by one high-level person in Ron Paul's kingdom, and the other part, people tell you part of something, you don't get it all, then I was told the other part, but it's super secret, and so only Jesse Benton is allowed to know, and he can't talk, so no one, well, they chose Jesse Benton to be the holder of the secret. I'm being sarcastic. Well, I'm not being sarcastic. He can't actually string words together. But no, let me be serious here. Ron Paul's got some big announcements in the new year. Ron Paul's awesome, and I can't tell you what they are. But stay there. I shortchanged you, Bob. We're going to come back to you after the break, and then we're going to go to other people. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. By the way, I've been running liners about coming to you from the Central Texas Command Center deep behind enemy lines for 16 years. People are like, yeah, behind enemy lines. FEMA Region 6, yeah. Now it's everywhere. Secession fever. Everybody running to Texas from Michigan, Florida, California, you name it, because the taxes are lower. As the rest of the country goes into a depression. Very, very sad. And we are the resistance. I am coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, Austin. And it doesn't mean Texas is great either. Man, they are... well, listen, they only raised taxes 10% this year. That's better than California with 30% taxes and, you know, on and on and on. Hey, look, premiums are going to double now in the next 2 years on your insurance. Yeah, because the insurance companies get together behind closed doors and basically fix rates. And now you've got to buy it. Let me see. The government says I've got to buy it. What's going to happen to the price of it? 2 words, skyrocket. Skyrocket. But then you can still get a $5,000 a year fine if you don't get it, if you're poor, or go on government health care. But now, Tom Daschle wrote a book. I read excerpts of it on air a few years ago during the whole Obamacare debate that notice got through because the Republicans want it too because they're bought and paid for at the top. And you notice what happened there. When you look at it, Tom Daschle said, no, you're above 65, you're not going to get eye surgery. That money should go to young people. But they're not going to give it to young people either. They play you off against each other. They want that money, and it's going to be used to buy drones and buy off foreign governments and expand the global empire. You fools. But wait, Obama gave me a phone. He's going to do more. Don't you tell me. I won. Obama won. My man won. And these people associate their personal power with these puppets. It isn't that I was for Romney either. I had to defend Romney, and I said it in these words over and over again, and I'm going to your calls, in that he was playing the part of the conservative, the constitutionalist, the libertarian, saying, oh, yeah, small businesses are good. Small businesses did do that. Lower taxes brings in more revenue. This is the type of information that we're talking about here. And so they went, oh, that's discredited. America didn't want that. They wanted Obama. And then clear election fraud. And now they say, well, there's a mandate. Yes, you want gay marriage. Folks, I don't talk about gay marriage here on the show. It's not a federal matter. The issue is that's not what they want it for. It's not about people having their, quote, freedom. If you go actually study the CIA declassifications and look it up, I've had it with Dr. Michael Kaufman on. We've covered it in Endgame 2.0, the expanded Endgame for PrisonPlanet.tv, where they admit that they wanted to promote people being promiscuous, period, so they wouldn't have long-term relationships. So even if they had children, they wouldn't take care of the children. And so the state could raise them, like North Korea does, breaking up families. And this is what they've done. This is their program. This is their plan. And they use it as a political football and make the new civil rights movement all about what people do sexually, instead of, hey, the new civil rights movement should be, why does most of my tax money go to foreign banks and bailouts? Why am I being surveilled illegally by the NSA no matter what color I am? Why are they setting up federally funded highway checkpoints no matter what color I am? See, we're losing all our real rights while the government all day tells you how they want to make sure you get all your rights because somebody didn't let you, have this and that and all these football issues that they use to just toss back and forth all day. While meanwhile, they're teaching elementary students nationwide in government training camps, public schools, they're teaching little boys and girls that it's fashionable to be into the other sex or be into the same sex. You do that, folks, that is child abuse. That is wrecking their innocence. And it just makes me so frustrated to know the globalists are a bunch of perverts. And I don't mean perverts even to the point of what their sexual, quote, preference. I mean, these are people that get off on things that they see as degenerate. These are crazy people. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, anybody in Congress that wants to have sex with 14-year-old pages is a degenerate. I mean, look at them. They're having sex with girls, with boys, with the whole thing up there constantly. That's why they're in there. You're not let in most of the time unless you are a pervert, unless you are a pedophile, because they can then compromise you fully. You got a 9% approval rating for Congress. Do you really believe that people are voting for everything that Congress wants, that people are actually voting for most of these congressmen? No, it's a pervert club up there. Just like I told you, the entire leadership of the school in Pennsylvania was involved in the cover-up. Of course they were, folks. Because I've studied this and discovered that the globalists use, and it's mainstream news that the CIA likes to hire people that are engaged in illegal sexual practices. Because then they can destroy them anytime they want. But also, that's the club. Look at ancient Rome. That's what they were all into. Look at the Nazis. They were all into a bunch of weird stuff because normal people don't want to put other people in re-education camps. Do you know why they want to put you in a re-education camp? Because they get off on coming out to the jail cells and getting the woman they want or the kid they want or the man they want, and maybe they just want to torture you. Maybe they want to rape you. Maybe they want to strut around and tell you they're powerful and have you to dinner with them. Maybe they want to beat your husband to death in front of you. Maybe they want to pour battery acid on small children and rape them like they do at Abu Ghraib on record, Army's own report. Okay, they want to build a tyranny so they can pull your teeth out with pliers. And they're going to do it. They're already tasering people everywhere for, quote, not giving a urine sample or not talking to the officer while you're chained down. They're killing people in restraints everywhere because it's what they like, and they're going to have more. And once they get into full power, the mass killing begins because that's what they want. And you are naive historically if you don't realize that's what's now happening. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Bob in Michigan, go ahead and finish your point, sir.
Hi. This is Bob in Michigan, and again, I'm coming from FEMA Camp 5 region.
Yes.
Don't look for me in the camp because I'm not going. We're here. We're not a joke, and we've been asleep at the controls way too long. It's time to stand up and stand. And those FEMA camps will be good places to put some of these congressmen and stuff that are treasonous. I mean, it's time for us to stop. Think Iceland, sir.
No, I agree. Iceland threw them out, and they're now arresting the bankers. And we could put them in the regular prisons, let out all the nonviolent people, give them all their due process, and when they're shown to have been involved in treason against this republic for foreign enemies, they'll get the death penalty. That is death. But we can be lenient, because I don't like the government and the job of executing people, because they can't be trusted. I don't even trust ourselves. I just think, life in prison, or if it's a lesser crime, 20 years hard labor, and then exile. Of course, what country would want to take scum like this? God bless you, Bob. William in New York wants to talk about smart meters. Thanks for holding her on the air, sir.
Hey, what's going on, Alex?
Worldwide broadcast.
I was saying it's an honor and a privilege to talk to the general in the resistance on the war against these malevolent forces. Listen, I saw a report recently about these smart meters, Alex, and recently, try to keep it short, I had one of these replaced because the power company realized that it wasn't working, and then charged us an enormous bill for the time that it wasn't working, and they came and replaced it with a smart meter. Not too long before I saw the report about them. So I called them and I demanded that they take it off my house, and I've been getting repeated, oh, we'll call you back, we'll call you back, we'll call you back, and never call.
Well, it's on record that they interface all the new appliances. We tried to go buy a new clothes dryer and washing machine, and everything at the Lowe's we went to, we couldn't find something made in America. And then we went to another place that had made in America, but that, too, was the new smart stuff that the iPad can go in, and it says it's got smart home sensors. And these companies have standardized it where the smart meter tracks them and what they're doing wirelessly, along with everything else in your house. That's all admitted. Just like the TVs watch you, and the TiVos, and the cable boxes, and the smartphones, all admitted last week. I told you 15 years ago, because the documents were public. And these things are literal government spy hubs on your house, but they can also dial into the new... Have you heard about data over power line? You heard about that, Bub?
No.
Now, Bub, I love that word. Now, I mean, it's amazing that now they can send the data, not just wirelessly, but the smart meter can now go in, and the new plugs on most of the new appliances have a digital chip that actually hooks into the computer brain of the appliance, and it communicates through the electrical socket. How do you like that?
Do you think this is a policy, Alex, of them saying that it's digital? I told them I don't care if it's digital. I want it off my house, not their house.
Well, no. Nationwide, they're putting in the, quote, smart meters, kind of like smart growth. They ought to just rebrand Hitler and call him Hitler Smart. And everyone would go, oh, I love Hitler. It's Hitler Smart. Or maybe Mao Smart. Mao Zedong Smart. When you hear smart, run. And again, it's not that technology, they go, oh, you troglodyte caveman, you don't know. I'm sick of also, in the price of what I buy, having all this spy tech. Did you know, I was reading in a Consumer Report magazine a few months ago that sometimes 20 to 30% of your computer or the electronics in your car or the packages you get, sometimes thousands of dollars of a car's price is surveillance crud that you didn't even ask for in it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Your washers, your dryers, your computers, your refrigerators, everything. And the smart appliance hooks into the smart meter. So, yes, get them out. Get them out. Get them out. And again, they're very expensive. They make you pay through your bill for their little machine. And then they also have, the cities have wireless meter reading. And we've also caught them using those to steal data. Just like the Google cars drive around with the mast breaking the codes. They look for computers password protected. They look for it and then have codes given to them by the big companies to, this is in the news, to break into your computer. Does that sound like a nice organization?
I mean, come on. I mean, and they look forward to people being either with their head in the sand or scared.
Now is the time. See, notice they'll pay with a rebate for you to put in part of the solar if it's hooked into the grid. No, we've got to go solar that is not in the grid. We've got to go wind that's not in the grid. But guess what? They'll send out inspectors now in counties all over the country harassing people that try to put in their own solar that is not hooked into the grid, and they'll harass you and try to make you remove it. They don't want that. They want you under their control. And then there's also the health effects that have been proven from the smart meters. Folks, you think cell phones are bad? These smart meters are far worse. God bless you, sir. Expanding on that. Now all the new cell phones coming out in the next few years will not have plugs. Will not have plugs to be charged. They're going to charge through the air from hubs you plug in. And I went and did some checking. The radiology, if you think a microwave transmission is bad, folks, beaming power through the house, through the air, into your phone. I mean, it is unbelievable what frequency pollution is doing to all of us. They admit it. They knew 30 years ago when they were approving cell phone technology, it was giving the rats brain tumors. But again, we get it, we're used to it, we use it, and we kill ourselves. Humans are tough, folks. We're just designed to adapt to our environment. Well, the globalists give us a false environment. We just adapt to it. And the environment is designed to kill us. Let's talk to Nathan in California. Nathan, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Well,
yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, okay. I had an incident with a smart meter as well. But what I'd really like to tell you is there's 100% tax in California for electronics. In the past 3 years, I've bought 3 iPhones. They go on sale for $50, and California says, well, we don't want to lose the revenue we would have made if it was full price, you know, a $500 phone, whatever. So we're going to charge you $50 tax. I pay $50 for the phone and $50 in tax.
I know, sir. I know. It is hellish. And again, when they tax everything, then they can social engineer with that money as well. I mean, look at government. Government swaggers around like these people are God. Government bureaucrats swagger more than movie stars I know. I mean, they have arrived. They're government, you're scum.
And then they try to brainwash you into this is what you want, this is what you need.
Well, yeah, they're doing it for your own good.
My smart meter. Let me tell you about the meter. My wife and I got an electric bill that was 3 times the ordinary bill. We've been in this house for 6 years, and I had run a little old window air conditioner.
Well, sir, you live in California. They admit, they monitor all your appliances. They can tell off the meter what you're using. And when you, quote, use in peak times, they charge you more. And remember, they said they're going to control the temperature in your house now. You live in a state, but this is going nationwide, where the government controls the temperature inside your house.
This is even worse because it's extortion, because we don't have a smart meter.
I know that came out in the San Francisco Chronicle too. They're telling people. I know. Well, they estimate is what they say. Go ahead and tell the story. I'll shut up.
Right. Supposedly, the technician came out and read the meter. We got a bill 3 times what it was. My wife called, and they said that's what it is. That's what the guy read. And a month later, after she'd been making payments on this exorbitant bill, they call up, or she calls them. One or the other, I don't know. But essentially, they tell her, oh, that was a mistake.
Well, hey, listen, I hope everybody enjoys the triple rates. God bless you. We actually found news articles while you were talking. Court approves increases in prices after smart meters. Yeah, there it is out of a Michigan Live. Court upholds consumer energy rate increase tied to smart meters. And now the doubling of your premiums, Bloomberg. Oh, Obama was going to get the health care affordable. He loved you. He wanted to help you. He's a eugenicist who wants you and your family dead in a grave. Yeah, the government calls the New Freedom Initiative the plan to drug half the American school children publicly. New Freedom. They call the Patriot Act patriotic, when it's the America-killing legislation. And they call smart meters. These are electric company, Enron-planned scam systems that control the temperature and on average triple your prices. But it's for the earth, just like when the Austin mayor says, yeah, we've doubled your power prices the last 5 years. We're going to double them again. And they put it in the paper like it's good. Yes, we shut down the 2 city-owned power plants. We're going to shut down the giant one. And they are clean-burning coal, but we're shutting them down. And your prices will double again. I mean, imagine a country where the NSA spies on you publicly, the government runs Al-Qaeda publicly, they have meters spying on you that control the temperature in your house, they're announcing televisions are watching and listening to you and tracking everything you do, government-issued laptops are watching kids at their own homes, and the government is announcing it like it's normal. They're out of control, and they're going to nuke a city or something and pose as saviors. I know how these criminals operate, okay? I'm risking my life to tell you this. These are criminal scum. They are scum. Okay? And all you idiots that work for these big corporations that are part of this in the government, listen, you're part of it too, okay? And that's why when I look at you, I may throw up. That's why I can't contain myself around any of you anymore. You make me want to throw up. And you watch America, it's all going to start happening. Listen. All the setup of the New World Order is almost done. You understand that? Now we're getting down to the wire. And I'll tell you the good news, though. People are waking up. I mean, this show sounds totally insane. I know it does, but it's real. It's real. It's real. And that's why we're getting on so many AM and FM stations, because people now have figured out this is real. People that thought I was nuts have figured out, wait, it's all happening. That's right. That's how we can beat these people. If you'll just go research it yourself, it's now all out in the open, and just decide that you're going to resist it. But you got to get aggressive, folks, or we don't have any hope. It's going to go to a civil war. And we don't want that, because it's not going to hurt the New World Order for us to kill each other. We need to wake up the police and military now. We need to wake up the bureaucrats. We need to be aggressive. I know we got loaded phones here. I want to go to Angel and others, and we'll do that in overdrive. I've got a lot of calls about smart meters. They're going in everywhere. I remember 6 years ago, they were like, we'll never use it to control the temp. Now they do that. We'll never use it to charge you more during peak times. That's what it was designed for. Now they're doing it everywhere. We'll it's for the earth. We're going to double your prices again in Austin. Meanwhile, it's globalist power companies are just having their competition shut down so they can make huge profits. At our expense. You don't need to rob banks, folks. You just have government shut down your competition. I was reading about government health care, and David Knight was telling me about it. He told me the name of the process. Will you go ask David Knight the process of where counties, if they have their own county hospital, they won't let a private hospital open and say have an MRI or a machine because that competes with them. I mean, this country, I forget the name of the process, but I've heard about it before. He was telling me about it. I mean, it is so beyond, it's ridiculous that when you actually have employees and you actually are involved, you see it all. That's why business owners are so angry. The general public just gets a check and, has no idea. You deal with the bureaucrats in other ways, but I mean, it is just... And to know I'm funding this thing makes me sick, sick, sick. And I do little things. I move out of Travis County because your tax money, property tax money, funds abortion, only county in Texas. But still, now they want to expand that district out to where I'm at. It's just like there's no way to get away from them. There's no way to get away from these greedy little control freaks. You got to spread the word about the broadcast, folks, on your local AM and FM stations. You got to spread the word about Infowars.com. And you got to financially support us so we can build up in the face of the globalists. Because I'm committed. I'm going in 110%, but I need the energy and the mid-air refueling. So buy the ProPures, 15% off, great water filters, InfoWarsStore.com. Get the yearly memberships and get 5+ months free at PrisonPlanet.tv. Each membership is really 10 memberships. PrisonPlanet.tv, 59 cents a person per month. Your Christmas shopping is done. All right, folks, it is Thursday, the 13th day of December, 2012. I'm your host, Alex Jones, taking some phone calls here right now. But look at this London Guardian headline. CIA tortured and sodomized terror suspect. Human Rights Court rules. Landmark European Court of Human Rights judgment says CIA tortured wrongly detained German citizen. And as usual, they sodomize them because that's what they like to do. It's why they got into that business. They'd like to do that to your family, too, because they work for foreign banks. They work for Satan. Let's go ahead and talk to Angel in Minnesota. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hello, Alex. God bless you. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to make some connections with the kids are not just getting poisoned by the vaccines. They're molding them into like heroin addict criminal type people. No. They admit they get them on Prozac and Ritalin because they're 4 times more likely to end up on illegal drugs.
and then they have the DARE people come in and show them all the drugs. Exactly. No, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's preparing them to be institutionalized.
Well, not only that, it's when parents feed the children of autistic children, when they feed them things like milk and gluten, that is actually acting as an opiate. Because the yeast overgrowth in the intestines causes leaky gut syndrome, then the proteins come through, they leak through those holes, the proteins from the milk and gluten, they leak through those holes and then attach to the opiate receptors in the brain.
Well, that's true. That's why when you drink, alcohol, you get intoxicated. There's a lot of science showing that. And so they have autoimmune responses in the intestines and the brain, and that's all been pretty well documented. That's why they went after, the doctors that exposed that. Now that doctor's suing them, but it's gotten no media attention.
Yeah, and they're molding them. And plus, autistic children do not have, they don't have empathy, or they have lack of empathy. My son hardly had any empathy at all until I took him off the gluten and the milk. He took a pencil to his little brother's eye, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, just trying to go in his eye and out his ear." I'm like, what?
Yeah, no. Listen, it's all chemical biological warfare on us, and they're just trying to get it normalized that autistic, brain damaged, dying of cancer. Oh, we all just die now. You used to get the cold, now you get the cancer. Oh, but Rockefeller says take more vaccines. He loves me. Oh, he funded Hitler, his dad did. Oh, they're eugenicists. Well, never mind. Bill Gates' dad ran Planned Parenthood. He just wants to give you 150 shots a year because he loves you. He's a nice man. I appreciate your call, Angel. We should all do whatever Bill Gates says. He's such a nice little non-threatening guy. Oh, we want to not give the patient into care, and we can hire 10 teachers. And the teachers are like, ah. Let's go ahead and talk to Joseph in Georgia. You're on the air, Joseph.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear,
okay.
brother. Got about a minute. Go ahead.
The first question I got is, I got to get major dental and get my ankle operated on. How long do I got to get that done before any of this health care stuff interferes with
Well, they don't want to do it too quick and have you bolt the slaughterhouse. So, it'll take them a few years to really double and triple the prices as they're now announcing and bankrupt it fully. But as long as you got money up front, it'll take them a while to bankrupt the old medical system. And then it'll be hard to, you'll have to go to Mexico to get your teeth worked on in 10 years, maybe 6, 7, the way they're going. And unless you're a card-carrying communist, then you'll get some first-class health care like North Korea.
I got your DVDs, and I got Endgame and Obama Deception. I got extra copies and sent them to people I know, and it's good to keep on spreading the word. A lot of people are getting more aware of it, but... No,
that's the good news, brother. People are now finally ready to wake up. People now get this is a predatory government. Even the dumbest have the hair on the back of their neck standing up. A dog has survival instinct, and humans have got one. We've got to fully activated, get in combat mode in the info war, and crush the enemy. And you crush the enemy by telling it like it is. They're a bunch of murdering, scumbag parasites that want us to be their slaves.